Hey, what's going on, everyone? This video we are looking at the Week 16 NFL Draftkings and FanDuel final look picks for tomorrow. So let's get started. As always, appreciate you guys hit the like button on the video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow me on Twitter at the DFS process for updates. You can check out the website if you want to join. Links in description. And let's get started. We've been really good on these Sundays the last like 5 weeks in a row. Last week, it all came together and we absolutely crushed thanks to Jalen Hurts, Calvin Ridley, and a few other pieces. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. We have 10 games, 6 starting at 1 o'clock, and then 4 starting at 4 p.m. Starting off at the quarterback position, as always, you have a few guys I want to highlight. As always, Patrick Mahomes, it always starts with him. He's at the top. He's 8,500. It's a really good spot against Atlanta. This is looking like the game stack of the week. He's at home. They pile up the points. Atlanta, they can't stop anybody. Even when they get leads, they end up blowing them. Another one last week where they got up by 3 touchdowns, and then Brady just came back in the third and fourth. So you got to like Mahomes at 85. I have no problem with it if you want to go up to him. I like him a lot better than Lamar Jackson in the 7K range. I think Hurts is the best option, followed by Watson, then Herbert, then Wilson. Hurts was awesome last week, won us a lot of money, and I will be going right back to him. Price tag has come up, but I mean, what do you expect? He has been spectacular, not only throwing the football, but he's been great running the football, and that's what you want. You get a lot of upside with rushing quarterbacks. He can rush for touchdowns. It gives you like so much upside, and it's a really good spot against Dallas. Expecting the Eagles to be able to put up some points here, and Jalen Hurts should have a lot of ability to run the football as well as pass the football tomorrow. Other quarterbacks, if you want to go cheap, you have Matt Ryan at 58 in a good spot against the Chiefs. You have Jared Goff at only 5,900, Trubisky at 57. They all look good and all have decent upside at cheap price tags, but expecting another big game from Hurts, so I will be going with him. Running backs, not a lot of top end running backs tomorrow. You have nobody above 8K. You have Nick Chubb against the Jets and Montgomery against Jacksonville as the two guys, and Eckler as three guys above 7,500. Out of that trio, I like Montgomery the most, then Chubb, then Eckler. Only reason I don't like Eckler more is because only one touchdown on the season, even though he's getting a ton of touches. They near the goal line, they for some reason they put in like Balaj to get those 1 yard or under or like sub 5 yard touchdown carries, touchdown runs. So it's annoying and it can be frustrating, but he still looks like a solid option. You have Miles Sanders right at 7,000, who looks solid. A really good spot. You know, perfect pair. If you want to stack him with Hurts, you can kind of hope to get all the Eagles touchdowns that way. Hope that Hurts runs for a couple, or hope that Sanders runs for a couple, or maybe they connect. Because Sanders catches passes as well. He's going to get you around probably, I say, 17 to 20 plus touches. Last week didn't was fine, but he didn't get a touchdown, which is what you're gonna need. But it's just such a good spot against Dallas. Like teams just run all over them, and I'm expecting the Eagles to do the same thing, and it's gonna be a nice combo of Hurts and Sanders. So I'll plug him in. I think you could, both at 7K. I like the upside for both of them. You have quite a bit of cheaper running backs this week with some guys out. So first guy is Cam Akers is out for tomorrow. Edwards-Helaire is also out, so you have Le'Veon Bell at 5,800, who looks solid. Plug him in there. Against Atlanta, he's just gonna go from not getting a ton of work to getting like probably 15 to 20 touches as well. The Chiefs are just gonna pile up so many touchdowns that it's safe for Le'Veon Bell. That I think at 58 he's still a safe play because he's another guy just like Sanders, can catch you passes and has decent touchdown upside with just how often the Chiefs score the football. So I like both of these running backs a lot. And then I think it might be a week where you plug in 3 running backs because wide receiver, minus a few guys, isn't super strong at the top. You don't have very many besides Ridley, who I love again, and Hill is dealing with an injury and is questionable. But the third running back that I really like, point per dollar wise, is Henderson. He's only $4,500. No Cam Akers. You've seen Henderson get a ton of work early in the season, and then when they started giving Akers a lot of work, he kind of has fallen off. But he's been ahead of Malcolm Brown, the second guy, so I'm expecting both guys to kind of split some work. But I think Henderson at 45 is probably going to get a little bit more work. Hopefully it'll be like a 60-40 or 70-30 split. But I do like his upside against Seattle, another team where you can have some success with, you know, playing some guys against, and whether they're pretty good against the rush, but Henderson and also catching passes. And I still think he's going to get you some decent work on the ground just with how often the Rams like to run the football. So Hurt, Sanders, Bell, and Henderson are the four guys that I will start my lineup with. Other guys to consider are running back. Like I mentioned, I think these guys all look good. Elliott said he's going to play, so that kind of takes Pollard out. He was really good last week as a nice late pivot. There's nobody besides these three that nobody besides Bell and Henderson in that 4 to 5K range that I'm really all over. One guy that you can target is Ito Smith at 4K now that he's kind of jumped ahead of Todd Gurley. And another one is Melvin Gordon at 56 against his former team. With Lindsey on IR, you can also be a decent option. It's a good spot for him, but that offense is pretty ugly. Moving on to wide receiver. No Julio Jones means you play Calvin Ridley. 2 weeks in a row, Ridley has checked in under 10% ownership. Well, last week he was like, I think he's probably under 8% ownership the last couple weeks. Nobody's been playing him, but he continues to just crush. He's leading the NFL in like air yards, getting a ton of targets without Julio, and I will gladly continue to play him for the third week in a row. 85 in a great spot against KC in terms of a potential shootout. Expecting it tomorrow, and Ridley's going to be a huge piece of that. If Atlanta's able to stay in this game, it's going to be through the air, and it's going to be with Calvin Ridley catching bombs. You have Keenan Allen questionable. That's going to be somewhat important. Even if he's in, I'm not thrilled about it because those hamstring injuries can definitely pop up mid-game and he can leave, and I will not be happy if that happens. Allen Robinson's also questionable. Keep an eye on that. You have McLaurin doubtful, so that's going to be pretty important. We'll like to see who's starting at quarterback, whether it be Alex Smith or Haskins. Smith is much better in terms of like getting the offense going and for the other guys. So we'll see. Practice fully on Friday. I think he's going to give it a go, and that should be good for Logan Thomas at 4,900 against Carolina, coming off of his best week of the season with 15 targets. And that was with Haskins. So imagine what he's going to do without McLaurin and with Alex Smith potentially back. But going back to wide receiver, I love Calvin Ridley at 8,500. I absolutely love Deontay Johnson at 6,300. Like, I don't know why he's so cheap. He should not be 6,300. It's not an easy spot against the Colts, but this Pittsburgh team cannot throw the football. I cannot run the football. So they're going to have to throw the football a lot like they've been doing every single week. And Indianapolis is really good against the ground, so you're going to see Johnson and the Pittsburgh offense once again have to resort to the air once Connor/Snell gets stuffed on the ground. So I see Johnson putting in a lot of getting a lot of targets like he's been, like 13 targets, 7 in a game where he got benched for the majority of the first half, 12, 13, 16, 11, 10. Like, this guy just doesn't fall under 10 targets. And it's a spot where, like I mentioned, they're going to have to throw him. Pittsburgh needs a win. Not that they need a win, but just for themselves. Heading into the playoffs, no team wants to lose like 4 in a row. And then who knows what happened in week 17. But 3 straight losses, couple of them to some bad teams, especially last week against Cincinnati and then Washington. They should have won that game too. But I think Johnson at 63 is just such a nice play. And we're going to need some value. We're going to need some value to fill it out. But I think we definitely have that value here. But first, just kind of scroll ahead and touch on some other guys to consider. You can play T.Y. Hilton if you want to run it back with Johnson in that game at 55. You can play DJ Moore at 58. He looks solid. If you want to play an Eagles wide receiver, we would be Jalen Reagor. Even though Greg Ward had 2 touchdowns, I think Reagor is still the number 1 guy in terms of receiver. And if you want to go cheap here, you got plenty of guys. You can take a shot on AJ Green at 34 with no Tyler Boyd. You can gladly take a shot on Marvin Hall. Stone minimum $3,000. The Cleveland wide receiver corps is completely decimated with COVID and injuries. So he is the only guy that was active on the team that is going to play a wide receiver. They called up a couple of guys from the practice squad. So he should be out there on the field the entire game after getting a couple of inactives since in his first 2 weeks in a Cleveland uniform. He should be out there a lot tomorrow. So I feel really good about these plays, these 6 plays. If you're not feeling like Henderson, you can take him out and make it 5 plays. But I think Ridley looked really good. I love Johnson at 63, and Hall. You kind of get a little piece of each: expensive wide receiver, a mid-range wide receiver, and a cheap wide receiver. Pair with a really good running back core in Sanders and Bell, and then you get Hurts. So that's pretty much it for the DraftKings side. Looking at defenses, we have Washington. I like quite a bit at 3,000. You can take a shot on the Eagles defense, the Giants for tournaments, and I don't think I'll go super cheap. If you wanted to pay up for a defense, look at the Bears at 36 against Jacksonville, and maybe you can look at the Chargers. And tight end wise, if you're not gonna go up to Kelsey, you can play Logan Thomas at 49. You can play Austin Hooper. He's gonna get a lot of work with them having no wide receivers. You can look at Austin Hooper. You can look at Zach Ertz, who kind of emerged last week. That's his 4th week back. He's starting to kind of get it going. 7 targets last week, which was nice to see. Only caught 2 of them, but almost had 100 yards if he was managed to catch in a couple of the other ones. So I think Ertz looks solid at 31. You got a lot of good tight ends to consider, but those 4 are the ones that I'm really looking at. And let's go over to FanDuel, kind of touch on my plays on FanDuel. It's similar to DraftKings. That's what I like to do. I like to root for the same players. And I think FanDuel and DraftKings will have similar builds this week again. Over on FanDuel, quarterback-wise, we have Mahomes at 94. No surprise that he's the most expensive quarterback option again this week. I think it's a little bit tougher to get to on FanDuel because you have Hurts is $1,200 cheaper. You have Watson at almost $1,000 cheaper. And then if you wanted to go cheap this week, last week you got the gem and Hurts at 6,900. This week I'm not really seeing anybody that I'm really thrilled about below 7K. I think 72 can take a shot on Trubisky. But I'm going back to Hurts again. I just think he's such a good player. Just right now in his first few games, like teams are still kind of adjusting to him. And it's just such a good spot against Dallas. Like the late game, so maybe you get a little bit less ownership. But I just think he's in for another big outing. Running backs, not a lot to like. At the top, you have Chubb is 9K. That's definitely really expensive. I think you can look to Kareem Hunt at almost $2,000 cheaper. I love Sanders at 7,300. Think he looked really good just in a game against Dallas. Just with how bad they are at stopping running backs and stopping the ground game. Other guys to look at are the couple that I mentioned over on the DraftKings side. It's Henderson. He's only 5,600, but Bell looks better too at 64. So you can plug both of them in if you want. Wide receivers, Calvin Ridley, 87. It's my favorite wide receiver again this week. Then the other guy is Deontay Johnson at 67. I don't know why he's that cheap. He should not be in that range. Like with all the targets that he gets, he should be in the mid 7K range. So we're getting a nice bargain on Deontay Johnson. I will definitely eat that up. And then tight end on FanDuel is easy to pay up because you have so much extra salary. So I'll pay up for Travis Kelce, especially if Tyreek Hill is limited or if he doesn't happen to play. Kelce will look great. And then you can plug in Henderson if you want, or whoever else that you think looks good at the flex position. But these are the main pieces that I'm considering over on FanDuel. Defense-wise, the Redskins are way more expensive, so they're pretty tough to get to. I think you can take a shot on the Giants at 3,400. Really cheap, not the easiest matchup, but they've shown some flashes this year on the defensive side. Unlike a lot of teams in that range, like not interested in the Falcons or Jets or the Bengals or the Broncos or the Jags defense. Like could take a shot on the Giants. I think they could have like a surprise defensive touchdown or something like that. If you want to pay up a little bit, play up 37 for the Chargers. Looks fine. And the Eagles at 42 looks okay. And then it would be for the Bears and the Reds and the Washington football team are the 2 teams that I'd like to pay up for defense wise. But that should about do it for this one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching and best of luck tomorrow.